Joining us now, author of, wow, what a book this was from the very beginning. It is The Russia Hoax, the illicit scheme to clear Hillary Clinton, framed Donald Trump, Greg Jarrett, and investigative reporter, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter. Let's start with you. The legal aspects of this is as clear what has happened. It's really a small group of people.
It is.
But what they did is a spectacular betrayal of the trust, the power, the tools of intelligence we gave them.
And the headline today is that William Barr is personally reviewing the conduct of the FBI in launching the Trump-Russia collusion hoax. You know, he knows, and there's a plethora of evidence, that the process by the FBI was corrupted by political bias and personal animus. Just look at the text messages from Peter Strzok. They're virulently anti-Trump. They're profane, and he's leading the investigation of Trump. There was never any credible evidence to launch the investigation, and Lisa Page verified that in her own testimony. Comey grudgingly admitted it. And then they made matters worse. They lied to FISA judges to obtain a wiretap warrant. So all of this, I think, William Barr is going to investigate. And when he receives sometime this week from members of Congress a criminal referral, he will read what they are laying out, the facts, the evidence, and the law, which will initiate, I believe, a criminal investigation by Barr.
All that James Baker revealed here, that Hillary's behavior was alarming, it was appalling, and worse. And he was arguing to indict her, the top lawyer of the FBI. And well, he didn't have the power or authority to overturn Comey and this band of Clinton supporters here. Go ahead.
This is what's so interesting, Sean, because the most important point here is that Comey went out before the public and said no reasonable prosecutor would bring charges against Hillary Clinton. Yet his general counsel had been fighting with them for I don't even know how long. In fact, throughout the whole investigation, basically arguing that this was gross negligence. Up until the very last day, and that's in Baker's testimony, when he finally changed his mind. And he didn't answer as to why. It was as if he said he was talked into it. At the very last minute, he decided to change his mind. But you could see that he was appalled by it. He was disgusted by it. And then the fact that Comey came out and made that statement just shows that Comey was being dishonest from the very beginning. Attorney General William Barr has a lot on his hands because he doesn't just have to look at the Crossfire hurricane investigation when it started at the end of July, but he's really going to be looking at what happened before that with Stefan Halper, the mole that was working for the FBI who was in London, and his contacts with George Papadopoulos and how that all unfolded, and also all the information that leaked out on General Flynn. This is vitally important to understanding what was going on there. And I am telling you, Lieutenant General Flynn is the big mystery right here, right? And the answers are going to come forward.
What we know McCabe and Comey did, bragging about setting him up and knowing the FBI didn't think he lied, and that's what he got charged with because they were probably threatening his kid with potential investigation or jail. All right, so the rest of the media tonight, they're focused on, okay, the Mueller report. And, well, maybe he did obstruct justice, but let's go over what's coming. We have Tom Fitton in the next. All of the FOIA requests are coming out, Sarah. Criminal referrals this week by Nunes. Barr pledging today an investigation. The IG report on FISA abuse. Leaking report by Huber. Release of more closed-door testimony thanks to Doug Collins of Georgia. The FISA applications, Gang of Eight materials, 302s. Now, of course, the Ukraine incident. Okay, that's all coming. There's no way this house of cards can stand at this point, from my perspective.
It has no foundation, Sean. It is collapsing around everyone. And I'm going to tell you, one of the big things that we can't forget here is how the senior officials within the Obama administration played into this. Let's not forget about John Brennan. Let's not forget about James Clapper, and certainly not James Comey. We need to look into all of this, and we need to find out what really happened, because what happened here was senior officials were trying to coup a sitting president.
Let's go.
The Department of Justice was giving the marching orders to the FBI to clear Hillary Clinton. They created a legal standard that doesn't exist in the statute. And that was the excuse to clear her. And on the very same day that Comey cleared her, that's when the Trump-Russia collusion hoax began.
I got to applaud both of you. You're a big part of all of this, in this ensemble team that did the work that nobody else in the media would do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Within a week, I will be in a position to release the report to the public. I identified 4 areas that I feel should be redacted. The special counsel is working with us on identifying information in the reports that fall under those 4 categories. We will color code the excisions from the report, and we will provide explanatory notes describing the basis for each redaction.
The Attorney General, William Barr, up on Capitol Hill, he was supposed to talk about the Justice Department budget. Didn't spend a lot of time on the budget, spent a lot of time on the Mueller report, as you can imagine. He mentioned those 4 areas that'll be color-coded. They will be grand jury material, classified information that would reveal intelligence sources and methods, information that would compromise ongoing investigations, and privacy of peripheral players who were not charged. With that, let's start there with our panel. Ben Domenech, publisher of The Federalist, Mara Liasson, national political correspondent of National Public Radio, and Matthew Continetti, editor-in-chief of the Washington Free Beacon. Mara, it seemed like the Attorney General kind of was plain-spoken, said he wasn't going to go too far into the weeds until the report's out, which could be in coming days.
Which can be very soon, and Congress Democrats have a choice. They could abide the event, wait till it comes out, see if they feel that he's redacted fairly, and then they can fight about what he redacted. The one thing that did puzzle and concern some Democrats, of course, is he couldn't say whether he'd briefed the White House about the contents. But
he later came back and said that there was a discussion about the summary.
Right. And then Mueller had the opportunity to look at a summary and decided not to.
He was asked how could he finish this summary in just 48 hours, and the report itself is 300 to 400 pages. Here's his answer.
On March 5th, I believe, the deputy and I met with Special Counsel Mueller and his team and had a preliminary discussion about the report. So we had an inkling as to what was coming our direction.
I mean, Ben, he's kind of a by-the-book guy. He's kind of straightforward in his delivery.
You know, he's an institutionalist in a lot of ways, and I think he's a guy who looks at the situation that he's coming in here as one where he had 2 significant challenges, 2 messages that he wanted to get across today. The first was, as Mara said, to basically, I think, clamp down on some of the rumor mongering that had happened in recent days about the nature of the report, about the summary that he wrote, about the process involved, and frankly about whether these redactions were going to be something that were done in cooperation with the special counsel. He clearly sent that message today. He also had a message, I think, to a lot of Republicans today as well, which was to essentially say, I'm not going to pretend like everything we just went through didn't happen and that there are not a lot of questions about the process involved. He was very clearly sort of sending the message to Congress that there's going to be additional investigations into this process. And as an institutionalist, I think that Barr is convinced that's something that needs to happen in order to identify areas where that process may have failed.
As you can imagine, there are 2 different ways to look at this testimony today. The leaders in the Senate had basically the 2 different ways.
It really gets down to a question whether you trust Bill Barr or not. And I do, and I think he will get us a report that is as open as possible.
Thus far, I don't think Barr has conducted himself in a manner that earns people's trust. We'll wait to see the report, but color me dubious that he's going to be fair unless he proves otherwise.
Matthew.
I'm shocked that Chuck Schumer is dubious about Barr. I mean, we've gone from a Trump-Russia conspiracy, which seems to have been disproven by Mueller's investigation, to a Trump-Barr conspiracy, which has been quickly adopted by the Democrats as the new political play. But the way to understand Barr, I think, is to view him as the anti-Comey. He's done everything by the book, and as in contrast to the way that Comey kind of went ahead and inserted himself into the public sphere with his announcements about the investigations. And starting with that initial letter on that Friday, when Barr was literally citing regulations, stipulating this is why I'm sending the letter, this is why I'm going to prepare the report, this is the special counsel had no objections, did nothing out of line. He has done exactly what one would expect from someone who follows the book.
A lot of people following this and wanting to get information on the other side of the investigation, how it started. There was a little bit back and forth about that.
The Office of the Inspector General has a pending investigation of the FISA process in the Russian investigation. I am reviewing the conduct of the investigation and trying to get my arms around all the aspects of the counterintelligence investigation. That will be complete probably in May or June, I am told.
That IG report is obviously the focus of a lot of attention, especially from Republican lawmakers on the Hill. Republican
lawmakers have been trying to say that this entire investigation was tainted because of the way it started. Now, if the Barr summary is correct and it exonerates the president, I don't know why they'd want to undercut it at this point. It works for them.
To make sure it doesn't happen again.
To make sure it doesn't happen again. But they're interested in finding out exactly how it was begun. Was it begun with some kind of a FISA warrant that didn't merit approval, or was it started because of counterintelligence from one of our allies?
Yeah, and Ben, Senator Graham has said he's going to go down this road vigorously.
Yeah, and that pushes back against, I think, some Republicans who would prefer to just kind of drop it and move on. But it's very important because the reality is if Americans want to have faith in these institutions of law and order, which are at the center of American life in a lot of different ways, they need to be able to have faith that these were processes that are not going to be used by administrations against future presidential candidates or campaigns, and knowing the details of what was involved here, I think, is critical for that.
I mean, we could get this redacted version by Friday. It feels like a Friday afternoon kind of thing in Washington.
And it will be like a rainbow version of Mad Libs from all the different categories of redaction. Right. This is going to end up. This is going to end up in the courts, as everything seems to end up these days.
It seems to.